It's Jerry Norton, and in real estate acquisitions, one of the most important things you can do is to get the seller to name their price first. Now, what do you do when a seller won't give you their price? What do you do when a seller says, you called me, you give me the price for the property. I don't want to tell you my price. That's a very common objection. It happens all the time. So in this video, during a live training with Pace Morby's Sub 2 community, I was doing what I call audits and actually did some role play with an investor on that call where we actually go through this and I show firsthand how you handle that situation. Watch that now, coming up.
Go to warmleadsdaily.com to get exclusive warm leads sent to you daily. These leads are ready to go and want a cash offer on their property. Hurry, spots are limited. Go to warmleadsdaily.com now to claim your leads.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been following you for years. You are amazing.
Thank you.
So excited about this. So can I do a little role play with you?
Sure.
It's like, okay. So I'm the seller. Can you ask me the first question, the price?
How much are you looking to get for that property?
Well, you're the expert. You tell me.
Yeah, so you're looking for me to give you a price on the property that you said you want to sell. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly do that. And I could dig in and take a look and I could pull up values in your neighborhood. I could ask you a lot of questions about the condition. I could get to all of that. I could actually get you a very detailed price on exactly what would make this work for me. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to that. And we certainly can go that route if you'd like. But honestly, Gus, that would be probably a complete waste of my time and your time if we're not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. If you could tell me where you'd like to be, what would make you happy, if that's somewhere remotely close to what I think I could do, then I'll go ahead and we can dig in deeper. And I'm sure you've got a number in mind because we wouldn't be talking here if you didn't.
Yeah. So Zillow says 300. I'm kind of in a hurry. I can let it go for 150.
Great. I think we should dig deeper then. That's totally something I would talk to you about.
Okay. Ask me about the pain and motivation.
So what's got you wanting to sell this property?
I want to talk about it. It's too personal.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you've got something going on there. That must be hard. I just want to make sure I'm the right solution for you. I get it if it's something personal going on. I don't want you to divulge anything personal. Really what I'm hoping to understand, Gus, is if it's appropriate for you and I to even be talking because I'm an investor. And as an investor, I would be looking to buy a property at a discount that I could then do something with it to add value, make money. If that's not the case, then I would probably recommend you to do something else. So I'm just trying to understand what's going on so I can give you the right solution.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm an investor too. This is an investment property.
Okay.
I bought like 20 years ago for like $20,000. And then I got the tenant out. It's vacant now, but there's some work to do. And because of my family issues, I'm out of state. I don't have time to go fix it, take care of it. So that's the reason I'm selling.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. This property is vacant right now, needs some work done.
Yep.
You're looking to sell it. And so is there a timeline that's important to you?
2-3 weeks is fine.
Okay, so that's a fast timeline. 2 to 3 weeks is pretty fast.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding you, you're looking to get cash in your pocket in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Correct.
Well, if I could get you a check that you could walk away with, money in your pocket in 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not saying I can do that, but if I could do that, and if I could buy it as is, you don't have to do anything. What does the number look like for that to happen?
Yeah, like 50% off, like 150. I'm just wondering if you can help me. Is there another way to go around this so I don't have to pay the capital gain tax? I'm willing to do some creative finance.
Certainly. Yeah. If you're willing to be creative and wait to get some or all of your money, we could definitely look at that. That's something we do quite often.
So if I let you pay me like in 7-10 years, monthly payments, how would that help me with my capital gain tax? I still have to pay it, right?
Well, yeah, because you're not taking all of the cash through a sale up front and having to report all of that money. You would be earning the money slowly over time. So your tax liability would be much less by doing it that way.
But it's still the same, just in little pieces, right?
Well, I mean, it's going to depend on what tax bracket you're in.
Okay.
Right? Because if you took a lump sum now, it might bump you into a higher tax bracket. You trickle it over time, it might keep you in a lower tax bracket. Those are some details your CPA could help you with, but you certainly would save a lot on taxes if we did some sort of terms on the sale.
Awesome. So last question. I do have another offer from a local investor. He offered me, 150, can close in 2 weeks. I might go with those guys because I talked to them first, but if they cancel the last minute, I'll call you.
Did you get that offer in writing?
Yes.
Okay, so you have it in writing at 150. Well, then why are
So,
we talking? Why haven't you accepted that offer?
well, you seem to have a little more experience than that guy.
I can promise you I do.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why you're talking to me is you must have some uncertainty about that
Just
because,
want to have another option. Yeah.
okay, so here's what I would advise. If that's the case, then price is not the only thing that you really want to look at. You want to look at contingencies. Does that offer have contingencies? I'm willing to waive all the contingencies. Now I got to wait, make sure that I feel really good about the numbers, but I would waive contingencies. The second thing you want to look at is, are they putting down significant earnest money? Earnest money you keep if they don't perform. I would be willing to put down significant earnest money. And do they actually have a history of performing? Can they show you proof that they have the funds? And can they show you that they're real and legit as buyers? If I were in your shoes, I would want to make sure that those things are in place. And if they are, then, you know, in both offers are equal, then just pick the one you like best. And there you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. That's awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
How was that helpful, Gus? What were you hoping to gain from that?
Well, a little bit of everything, just understanding other ways to make the offer stronger. And yeah, I get this objections. These are the four top that I get.
Okay. Let me touch on one of the first ones there you said about you give me the price. When I ask a seller for price and they say, you give me the price, which by the way is common. That's going to happen, 3 out of 10 times, and depends on the marketing channel too. Mostly outbound, you're going to get a lot more of that. And the reason why you get that with outbound is because you're calling them, so they're in the driver's seat. They get to say, well, you called me, so what's your number? Whereas inbound, you get to say, well, you called me, what's your number? Whoever gets to say, well, you called me is the one that gets to lead out the conversation, right? So when a seller says that to me, I'll go through and I'll basically say, well, I can certainly give you a number, but I don't want to waste our time. So, let's see if we're in the ballpark. If they still say, I don't want to give you the number, you give me a number, then I'll say, all right, well, let's talk about it. Let's get some more information here and see if I can get you a number. Now, I'm still not going to give them a number. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, tell me what's going on. Okay, great. Tell me a little bit about that. Okay. And I'm going to say, certainly you have a number in mind. And I just go back to it. I ask again. I just go back to it again. And then sometimes I'll joke and I'll say, if you're thinking that I'm going to give you a number that's more than what you're thinking, I can tell you right now, that ain't going to be the case. Because if I got to give you a number, I'm going to give you a number that I feel so good about that it's probably going to be ridiculously low. So if you want, we can go down that route, but maybe just tell me where you're at and I can tell you if I think that'll work. So see how I'm kind of redirecting it? I'm redirecting. I'm always going back to them. And the reason why, it's less about the number. It's more about controlling the narrative. I always want to remain in the authority position. As soon as I'm chasing them, I'm not leading out. I'm not the authority anymore.
Anytime you actually give the number first, because you're pretty good at waiting and waiting and waiting, but the person can get it. So, dude, if you're not going to give me a number, we're done with the call.
Yeah, I would go 30% of Zillow. I would just give a ridiculously low number. And then I would be like, well, you wanted a number. I just gave you one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, why don't you counter my number then? And we'll see if we can get to somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I'm just playing along.
Yeah. And that's why you want to anchor low so you can actually maybe go halfway and start playing there.
My number always has to solicit a no. That's the low anchor. It will always solicit if I give a number and they say, okay, I didn't anchor low enough. Yeah. Because remember, what I want to do is they're pie in the sky. There's a number somewhere in here that works for a deal, but I want as much of the deal as I can possibly get. So the way I'm going to get there is I'm going to come down here and then hopefully we come to a number that is the best number I can get.
Some of the issues I have with competing with other investors in the area, I'm a flipper. It's that you get this gigantic buyers that they make an offer that makes sense for the seller, and the last minute is sorry, it's not that anymore, 50 less.
The reason why they're able to do that is because they have contingencies in their contract that allow that. So that's your leverage point.
Yeah.
So I would say to them, I'd say, listen, I don't know if this is what's going on with your other offer, but I would just be aware of this. What some buyers do, and this ain't how I roll, but this is how some buyers do, is they give you a high number, they string you along. You need to use that as leverage to differentiate from those shady wholesalers that are doing those games. I'd say, listen, here's how I roll. I need a small window of due diligence, but once that due diligence is up, I go hard and I commit to the deal and I put earnest money down to back my contract. So if you're getting another offer and they have either loosey-goosey terms, meaning they have contingencies that allow them to back out all the way up to closing, And if they have low earnest money, and if they can't show proof of purchase, then that's something I would be concerned with. Because what could happen, and I've seen this happen a lot, maybe it's happened to you, seller, is you get the day before closing and they hit you up for a lower number.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that happen to you. And I don't do those games.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Yeah.
This is
Good
really
job,
helpful.
Gus. Keep killing it.